Debt is like a highly addictive drug. You take it once and it becomes easier the second time round. And before you realize, you're completely hooked and you're an addict. Now, every last Saturday of the month, we have our fire workshops and we get very interesting stories from there. And the last one we had, the thing that stood out above everything else was the capacity of debt to impede people's financial growth. And the irony is everybody takes a loan, or at least the people who are there, they're taking these loans to help to propel them towards financial success. But it is these very loans that are sort of pulling them back. There's a Swahili saying that says, kukopa harusi, kulipa matanga. And very simply, when you borrow, it's a very nice feeling when you get this stash of cash, but paying for it becomes an altogether different and painful matter. I will not focus today on whether loans have merits or they don't have merits. I just want to take us through the process of addiction that debt develops in most of us. Now, for those of you who have borrowed, you remember when you are young. When you're young, you could not afford to borrow because you didn't have this thing called collateral. So you work very hard, not necessarily to build your wealth, but to develop collateral. And once you do that, you can go to the bank and you qualify for a loan, and they give you a loan, and you can either start a business or buy an asset, so just use it for lifestyle. And one of two things will happen. Either you will start paying faithfully or you start defaulting. If you start defaulting, they send some mean-looking guys to come and harass you, or they send you bad letters and bad texts. But you're not that guy. You're the guy who pays faithfully. And when you start paying faithfully, they start calling you and sending you texts. And before you know it, you're doing top-ups, or you're doing equity release, or your salary has gone up. So then you begin to qualify for more. And notice I'm using this word qualify like it's a big thing. Once you do that, then you can take a second loan or a third loan, and that becomes easier and easier for you. And when you do that, you are increasing your business, or you're increasing your assets, but you also notice that a large amount of your money goes to servicing this debt. And I would urge you to once in a while sit down and do the math when you realize how much you are really paying. Now, when you do the math, you realize, one, the bank takes upfront fees. It will 1%, 2, 3, 4%. And it looks very little, but if you really think about it, you are paying loan on 100%, but you've actually received 100% less 3 or 4%. So you have received 96%, you're paying on the 100%. So you're paying a lot of money upfront that you're not benefiting from. Number two, especially if you're taking a long-term loan, and I know this because I've done it before. You're taking a 25, 30-year loan. Most of the money that you're paying monthly does not go to cover the principal. That money goes to cover the interest. And so you realize you've taken a certain amount of money, and that it doesn't change much. It reduces very little because most of it goes to interest. Number three, the second and third loan makes it easier to borrow again and again and again. Then suddenly the loan becomes a need. Then it becomes a lifestyle. Then it's a complete addiction. So every time you're there, you're always thinking of borrowing more and more and more. And once you are addicted to debt, you become a very impatient person. So if you have a plan that could have taken maybe a year or two to implement, you want to implement it now. Why? Because you have access to cash. And you are this guy who pays faithfully. So the bank packages more products for you. Suddenly they are calling you for credit card. And it's very nice when you've gone shopping or you're sitting in a nice restaurant and you swipe out this. I remember they gave me a card with some golden embossing. And you have your name, and you remove that card and you swipe it. But being addicted to credit and credit cards and these loans makes you learn to buy stuff that you don't need with money that you don't have. That's a dangerous place. When you're buying stuff that you don't need with money that you don't have. But anyway, you continue. So by this time, you're either defaulting, in which case now the meanness starts, or you're still paying very, very faithfully. And one day, in this whole process, a big opportunity comes, those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. We'll talk about once-in-a-life opportunities at another time, or a big idea occurs to you, or a big problem comes to you, and you've maxed out your loan, so you can't borrow anymore. All your salary is committed to paying for these loans, and you can't increase this money, and yet you need more. But you're driving home, and suddenly along the streets, you're just seeing, get a loan for 24 hours processing, or in your phone, there are these mobile apps where the loans are easily available, and you begin to borrow. Now, not at 14 or 20% per annum, but at 14 or 20% or 30% per month. Or you get these mobile phone things at 1% or 1.5% per day. And once you're in that trap, my brother, my sister, you are hooked, you are a junkie. Now, when you begin to borrow from Shylocks and these phone apps, you realize that you're under a lot of stress. Your marriage, if you're married, your marriage is not working, your relationship is not working, your friends are avoiding you because you're always borrowing this 20 or 30K, and suddenly there's great stress. And this either will put you in trouble with those guys, or you can go back to your loving family and friends and they'll bail you out. And yes, you might be bailed out from these loans, but consider the cost. Consider the cost to your health, consider the cost to your relationships, consider the cost in money. So we can sit and argue whether debt is good or bad. We can have that argument another time. But my argument today is, when you borrow the first time, it becomes easier to borrow the second time. And you keep doing that, and you'll be hooked. Thank you very much.